Hi, all, and welcome today. I am Katie Shaner, and on behalf of the Advanced 2000 team, I'd like to thank you for joining us today on our monthly webinar series. Today, we're going to learn how firms can identify the right AI opportunities to reduce risk and create a clearer path forward based on unique goals and challenges when it comes to AI and AEC. Before we begin, a few quick housekeeping items. The session is being recorded and will be sent out post-event. We'll have time for Q&A at the end of today's discussion, so please feel free to drop your questions in the chat at any time throughout, and we'll address them in the last few moments. I just want to say thank you again for joining, and we'll kick it over to our moderator to start our session today.
All right, thanks, Katie. Great to have everybody join us today. Welcome to another one of our Advanced 2000 informational webinars. As you know, we host these every month. These are not sales webinars or product feature webinars. We're here to talk about some topic that's of interest to the greater IT community. And today we've picked a great topic. What is the role of AI in AEC? You know, we all know that artificial intelligence is reshaping the world, including the AEC industry. However, as we've seen, adoption remains uneven. A lot of us aren't really sure what to do with AI or how fast to do it. We have found that only about 27% of AEC firms currently use AI for tasks like automation, problem solving, or decision making. But early adopters are reporting returns on investment with 68% savings, 68% of them saving at least $50,000 and 46% conserving 500 to 1,000 hours annually on processes such as scheduling and document analysis. This growth is driven by advancements in generative AI, machine learning, and integration tools, and integration with tools like building information modeling, BIM, and digital twins, enabling more efficient, sustainable, and innovative workflows. So today we're going to have a conversation about the role of AI in AEC. And I'll say right up front, we at Advanced 2000s are not the experts in this field, but we are very dedicated to helping our customers make this transition into areas that AI can be pragmatically useful to their business. So consider today an exploration discussion. And with me today is the CEO of Advanced 2000, Brian Moad, and Stefan Mikulik, who is the CEO of a group called AI and AEC and another company called NeoStack. So welcome, gentlemen, if you can join us front stage.
Yes. Hello, everybody.
Welcome, Stefan. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Katie.
All right, so guys, to kick things off, first of all, thank you very much for taking the time to join us today for this conversation. I've put together a list of topics and questions that I want to run through to kind of stimulate this conversation. Again, our goal here is to inform our attendees on our experiences in walking down the road of bringing AI to the AEC community. If I just rewound the rollout of the internet, 25 or 30 years ago, we were all struggling. We were all trying to figure out what to do. We all wanted to be using the internet to advance our businesses and drive profitability and growth. And what we found was some things worked, many things didn't work, but it was these kinds of, I'll call them fireside conversations together where we kind of share our experiences, where we all kind of learn and grow. So with that, I'm really glad to have both of you guys with me today because you're both very deeply experienced in this fight to bring AI forward productively to help your customers and your clients make smart economic decisions on, when to go hard on AI, when to stand back. It's all about, timing and making the right investment at the right time and place. And I just have a ton of respect for what both of you are doing in helping customers on that journey. So let's have a conversation about that. But before I dig into my set of topics, I want to kind of make this a little bit more three-dimensional and give our audience the chance to kind of get to know both of you a little bit. So maybe, in a minute or so, could I ask you each to give kind of, your background, your area of interest in AI and AEC, and anything you want to share, just so everyone knows kind of the depth of the excellence that I brought to this webinar. So maybe Stefan, as our guest, would you like to go first?
Sure, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Brian and Katie, for organizing this. And everybody, hey, welcome to the webinar. My name is Stefan. I mean, it's a bit of a more complex name, as you can see on the screen. It's Stepan, but it's a Croatian version of it. I'm from Croatia, very small country, known for its football team, which hopefully is going to be good at World Cup in a couple of years here, and Game of Thrones. I mean, I think that's what people know us for. But yes, anyway, I'm from Croatia. I've been living in Denmark for 10 years, and I actually just moved to the States last year. So I'm here in LA. Yeah, not even a year, but I think it's been 10 months. And it all came together because I started basically this company, as you can see here, AI in AEC, and on my hoodie. And what we do is we help architects, engineers, and construction professionals learn and implement AI. So anybody who's wondering, okay, I heard about ChatGPT and Claude and all of that stuff, but what can I use to help me with my renders? What can I use within Revit? What can I use to analyze my drawings? What can I use for proposals and all of that? So all of that is what people come to us with, and we help them make an AI implementation plan and so on and so. We're going to talk about that, and we also have like world-known courses. Um, but yes, it's a small company. I have like 5 employees, and yeah, it's been very fun. And that's what started NeoStack. It's another company that is basically we're still building it out. It's the like MVP stage, but it's essentially like a software app that helps you track of all your technology within within your firm. So right now we're selling time, we're selling materials, but technology expenses are just like creeping on with like becoming more expensive. Nobody knows exactly how much, and that's what we want to solve with NeoStack.
All
Um,
right.
so
Thank you,
yeah,
Stefan.
yes.
Great introduction. Brian Moad, tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
Yes, yes, yes. Hey, welcome, welcome. Oh, I think my video. Here you go, my video went out. So, yeah, welcome. I look forward. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. Actually, 35 years. I started Advanced 2000 along with other companies. A company called Logistic Dynamics. I have multiple companies. Really, been an entrepreneur for a very long, long time. Self-sufficient. Advanced 2000 today is a company that serves tens of thousands of users across US, Canada, actually Europe as well, including Fortune 20. We do private cloud computing. We're leading MSD, leading MSSD, also security provider in North America. We try to help companies. If you look at me as a human being, my passion has always been to help. I really enjoy helping people. So today I translate that to helping companies run their technology much more efficiently so they can be more productive and they can provide for their own people. So, like I said, I've been in business for 35 years. I'm a technologist, I'm an engineer, I'm an electrical engineer and a mechanical engineer. I've also been an outsourced CIO for many years for a very large firm. As I was running my companies, I said, Brian, can you help us help? I said, sure, I would do it. And I enjoy what I'm doing. So I'm here to help you. Look forward for your questions and look forward for this webinar. Thanks, Joe.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Thanks, Stefan. So, guys, what I want to do is I'm going to go through a handful of rapid fire questions. I've got like a list of 24 questions here. We're not going to get to them all, but I want to kind of get through as many as I can. So let's just kind of aim for some short answers to these questions. And I think towards the end, we'll probably get a little more broader in our conversation. So really quickly, Stefan, what is your view on how AI is changing AEC today? What are you saying?
I think it depends on the readiness of the firm that is applying AI. Like we see all of this technology, but like this happened to me ever since I was a student and then started working. I was like, there's all of this technology that can do amazing stuff, but then you actually start working at the firm and you're like, they're still in AutoCAD. They're still like, don't get me wrong. Like it's nothing wrong with being in AutoCAD unless you really need BIM. But it's like it all depends on the firm, on the leadership of the firm to decide how far they want to go. But it's changing it in multiple ways. Like you can basically create like designs of buildings. You can create drawings. You can automate everything you're already doing with AI. There's many, many ways, and I hope to get to discuss them today.
Great. Thank you, Stefan. Brian, let me kind of switch gears with you a little bit. Where would you
Sure.
say AI is overestimated? Where would you say it's underestimated relative to the AEC industry?
So I want to go back to how AI is changing the AEC, what Stefan, I think this question is probably for both of us before we jump into the other one. And AI is really changing the world, and companies are either going to join it or become obsolete. And I don't say it, I really don't like how fast things are moving, but they are, and we as technologists have to be ahead of them. I tell this to all my employees and teams, and I try to help our customers. I want our customers to see ahead of us. So the way AI, I think, is going to be changing the AEC industry. Obviously, it starts by perhaps eliminating rework. It starts by shortening the feedback loops, and getting you to be more efficient in your work, so more efficiently. But there's a lot of steps along the way that companies need to pay attention to. So your second question, Joe, was regarding what was it?
Overestimated, underestimated.
Underestimated. So and I'm gonna maybe Stefan wants to also chime in on this one too. So the areas that people think are maybe overestimating, they think that AI is going to be it's going to replace humans completely. Well, it's not. It's not. I think there's going to be more jobs in AI, and it's going to replace mundane things that basically that are repetitive. Generative AI is there. It's a great idea and it works, but it's still not in my opinion, it's still not the final design. I think it's going to help architects and engineers with ideas. Just like if you're writing something, whether you're leveraging ChatGPT or Grok or any of those public platforms, they will definitely give you ideas of you can write your ideas and they will polish up your ideas and perhaps give you more ideas. So I think it's the same there on the generative part. You still have to have some accountability. I think regarding pre-construction and estimating, I even know off the top of my head, one of our clients, very large construction company that leverage AI for estimating. And man, did they do well. And this year, and I won't name who they are because it wouldn't be fair. I could tell you a little bit their size. They're about a $250 million company. And they hired as a sub their competitor, which is $1 billion company, because they've been winning these big government bids, leveraging AI. So they knew how to leverage technology very well, specifically in the estimating. The other thing I think, today, which is probably easy with AI, that I would say is a reality today is, and Stefan, I'm sure he can probably tell you, is like clash detection and risk as users are designing. And I know how to use Revit. I've not used it in a long time. I've used Revit to basically some of the my own pet project, redesigning a house or something, I play around. But I've seen where a lot of architects sometimes or designers, they'll have like errors in their models. They're not paying attention and all that. And AI will help detect a lot of these things and help people have better work. And so that's those are some of the things, including workflow automation. I think there's a lot of it. And one of our companies that we own, which is a company called HelloBook, we've leveraged AI specifically for a lot of workflow automation and so on. So
cool. Thanks, Brian. Stefan,
I'll be quick.
Overestimated, underestimated. What would you say?
Yes, I'll be quick. I think that it's overestimated in terms of like having AI design the whole building or do the whole process or like change the whole person. But I think it's very underestimated into having like small bits and pieces of like do this and do this and do this and just like speeding up the whole workflow. At least this is how I think about it when I work with my clients. We map out their workflow first, and then we choose the small bits first because the big things can come easier after that. But everybody's like, hey, I don't want Revit anymore. I just want something to design my whole bit. Like, it doesn't work like that. Within Revit, you can automate your drawings. You can automate your dimensions. You can, use AI to speed this up, right? So I think 1,000 small wins are better than like one big win in AI today.
So let's walk in the shoes of the AEC executive. They're probably getting pressure from their board to answer the question of how they're adopting AI. They're thinking about what to do or not to do over the next 3 to 5 years, and what the executive should push for versus the IT or the BIM manager. Okay, so let's walk in that executive shoes for a moment. How do they adopt AI without chaos? Can they afford to sit on their hands and do nothing over the next 3 to 5 years and watch their competitors pass them by? And should they make executive decisions or rely only on their IT BIM people? I know it's a big question, but if I'm the executive at an AEC firm, how would you advise me as to how to move down this path without chaos, and also encourage me that I can't afford to not do something over the next 3 to 5 years, and I can't just be dictated by what my IT manager wants to do?
Hmm.
A lot of questions,
So
but
is this question for me, or I'd be glad to answer it if I'll take a stab at
you,
it, and I'll have Stefan can also chime in at anytime he wants. Uh, so here's the thing, and I've seen it over and over again. I've seen it so many times where executives are disconnected from the process, sometimes the work process. And I understand because I try to get disconnected from my own work process. But sometimes there are things that are very important that will require you to really understand some of the stuff that you've been disconnected from for a long time. AI is such a big adoption where I think you as an executive obviously have to understand it to properly approve the financials that necessarily to implement the AI, and you have to set obviously business outcome, and define rules and the guardrails. And I talk about guardrails because AI without rules is a risk. It's a huge risk, and and set these type of things. You have to understand your workflows so things don't go out of control, and you can help your team. So obviously, you obviously are the guy that's going to say, okay, we're going to spend money on this and do this. But I think I would keep a very close watch eye on how things are being spent, and at the same time, setting up those outcomes and direction and understanding and the guardrails and re-understanding your workflow. So if I go back and I say, me as an executive, I'm not going to do anything in 3 to 5 years. Honestly, that is, I'll tell you guys, listen, I've been a CEO for many years, 35 years. I've worked 1 year for somebody, and I've been on my own building businesses, and some of these businesses are $100 million. So, and I'm not saying this to really try to impress anybody. Honestly, if I can save you steps along the way, as a business owner, as a CEO, or as a manager, so you don't make the same mistakes maybe I've done past back, this will be very helpful. So I don't think this is a situation where you can just sit back and not do anything. And I'm not saying this because I want you to do business with us or anything. This is such a change that if you don't do anything, your competitors honestly will outperform you. And I'd love to sit back and not do anything. I think it is very important in here to really take proactive action and so on. I also want to point out something. Stefan will probably will chime in here. AI is going to open up your eyes in several ways. First, it's going to show you how disorganized you've probably been for a long time. You probably don't want to hear this. Data is the fuel for AI. Okay, data is a fuel for AI. AI without data is nothing. It's just basically think of it like a paperweight. It's useless. So data is the fuel for AI. And I'm telling you, I know from my own experience. We went in there, we deployed AI on our help desk. We were looking at our solutions and all that stuff. Our people didn't do a good job in keeping, good data, good housekeeping on our data. So the AI is going to be think of it like a stupid employee. So you don't want that. So you really want to clean up your data. You want to review your processes and all that way in advance before you jump in, putting the cart in front of a horse. Hey, we're going to deploy AI for anything. I would highly recommend you cleaning up your data and jumping and doing and understanding your workflow. Then you go and start to deploy AI one portion at a time, kind of like Stefan said, one portion at a time, and certain parts of your business that makes sense.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Brian. I mean, as you know, we chatted a few times. I have a different, probably little bit of a different take on the data part, but let's get to that in a second. I want to discuss the executives, what they should do and what they can do and so on. Because you can see I will actually set up for this question. I'm so excited to comment on that, if that's okay, Joe.
Go right ahead, please.
Yeah. So, I mean, so this is so again, I work with companies every day, with companies that either want to learn AI, so through my courses, or want to implement AI through my consulting and, strategy assessment and readiness analysis and so on. So when I work with companies, I typically go, this is the question I love. I go and then like they invite me to a room and it's like a room full of people. The whole company comes there. Let's say it's like 40, 50 people, doesn't matter. And I just like ask, the first question I ask is like, hey, who here is using AI on a daily basis? And I can tell you 99% of times, all the executives never raise their hands and all the employees do. so, so what I'm trying to tell you is that this like, we need to implement AI without being chaotic. I'm telling you, it's already happening. Your employees are already using it. And it's just that, I mean, in my opinion and from what I've seen, the leadership, the management is not typically using it as much. Now, when it comes to implementation stuff, like we can say about competition, that's a valid argument in my opinion. But I think it's a little bit of a more valid argument. I actually have a real case study. I have a client here in California, down in Irvine, and they told me the other day, and they said that because we were discussing like changing business models. We were discussing like everybody's selling time, everybody's selling materials, but like how do we change it for AI? And what's changing now is that a client of theirs told them actually, they sent them an offer like we need to design the building, we need to create renders, and it's going to take us, I don't know, 30 hours for those renders. And a client answered like, why should I pay you for 30 hours when I myself can do it in an hour? So your clients are going to be pressuring you to implement AI because they know what's possible, they know what's out there. So that's I guess the best answer. And like they said, like they claimed, yes, but you don't have a human checker, you don't have that. That's all valid, I would say, for the next 6 months maybe. But AI is really good and it's getting much better very fast. So I guess that's my take on like on like where AI is today with firms. It's changing much quicker than we imagine. But when it comes to like implementation of it and what executives can do, I have like I don't know, some people probably don't know, but I have like a whole 10-step process of implementing. And the first was always AI's value proposition that people like it needs to come from the leadership. If you need to understand this is something big, let's get started with it. And you need to tell people, you need to reassure people. It's not to replace anybody. It's not to fire anybody. It's just to enhance what you're already doing and do it better, do it faster, do it, easier, resolve headaches. And then we go through AI education and policy, tech stack assessment, process mapping, pain points, and so on. I mean, I can talk more about it if you want, but yeah.
Well, let me ask you a couple of questions, guys. So if I'm an AEC manager, what are the 2 or 3 things that I should be using today to bring AI to my AEC staff that are really low risk, high return? What kind of rolls off your tongue is like, if you're not using these things, you guys are falling behind already? What are sort of the things that are ready to go right now that everyone should be using in AEC, in your opinion? Whoever wants to go first on that.
Stefan, you want to go?
Yeah, I can go first. And I'm going to cover like, I guess, the personal productivity apps, because like this is what I call them, personal productivity. Those are ChatGPT, Claude, and so on. Because the company stuff, like, all of your snapshots and speckles and I don't know what, Bimifies, we can discuss that. Like, it depends on the firm who wants to implement it. But I think that as like 1 to 3 tools that people can definitely need to have is that if you're within like Microsoft ecospace, I would say don't only stick to Copilot. Copilot is a bit stupid at the moment. Like it's getting better, it's getting there, but it's a bit.
I have to agree with you there. I have to agree with you. So
yeah, I was just say go for ChatGPT. It's much better. That's one thing. And second thing is if you're within Google Workspace, then of course use Gemini and Nano Banana Pro and so on. And Google is killing it right now. I think they're killing it right now. For the next 6 months, they're the best company for AI for sure of the big tech. And yeah, if you like want to do more coding, then it's definitely Claude. There's new Claude Cowork that can control so much across your desktop and so much stuff. So I think those are the three. I'd say, I mean, people probably heard about them, but what I don't think people know is like how to fully utilize them. Everybody starts with a basic prompt with like do this or translate this or like I'm like okay, there are like levels to this. So yeah, this is something that yeah. Yeah,
Brian?
that I would say. I mean, yeah. Go ahead, Brian, if you want to add something to it.
Yeah, I mean, uh, uh, so from an ROI standpoint, I honestly would like. I'm a I'm a freak at organizing, so I would look at. I would like to look at and organize my data and start looking at the tools that I want to use after. I have. I mean, with advanced stuff, we've developed our own private AI. I have a philosophy why we're doing this. We'll talk about it down at the end. Uh, but yeah, I think today big gains could be in eliminating clash detection. I think we could use that. I think even within AutoCAD, you can use a lot of these type of things, uh, and so on. So now, but I want to agree with Stefan on Google being right now ahead of the curve with other companies. So.
All right, thank you guys. So let me kind of keep us moving down the road here. As you know, there are hyperscalers out there: Amazon, Google, Azure, Oracle. These guys are kind of eating the world in a way. But there is a point where these public clouds or AEC firms will struggle with these big public clouds, these hyperscalers. So I kind of want to talk about the role of, what I'll call, private cloud computing outside of the hyperscalers, and what role private cloud computing plays compared to what I'll call public cloud computing, and the idea of an AI-ready infrastructure. And I know this is probably a little more tuned towards Brian's area of interest, but if I'm an AEC manager, Brian, and I've got to figure out, where to host my workload, what are some of the considerations to think about in public cloud versus private cloud?
Well, first of all, I mean, if we jump into public versus private, again, I'm a business person. I'm always looking at the bottom line, being most efficient. And if you want to be profitable in a business, you have to make a profit. You don't make a profit, might as well close the doors and move on. So the thing about public cloud for me, if I just compare our cloud, now again, I'm trying to sell you on advanced, we're less than half the price and twice the performance. And it doesn't make the economic sense for me if I was on an outsider looking at public cloud. And I have to do these ROIs for some of our very, very large companies, sometimes Fortune 20 that we've been dealing with for many, many years. They challenge me on ROIs and they see it and they say, wow, that's great. We're ahead. We're typically 2 generations ahead on GPU. I'm not saying all private clouds are like that. I'm just talking about our private cloud. We don't, we have a flat rate on cost, so we're not charging for data in and out. That's where public cloud, they're not, the prices are crazy. And I know companies that basically just couldn't afford it. They almost went out of business because they were leveraging a big private cloud. So the other thing that I have is intellectual property. One of the things that always alarms me. That's why I always say, hey, don't just go in. Alarms me of how. That's what prompted us to start developing our own. We have our own private AI. To keep it private. You look at people's intellectual property. You've worked hard to design this building. You've worked very hard. Your creativity is the design, and then you just putting it out there. And whether you opt out of I'm not going to tell you. Go read the terms and conditions of Grok or anything. They tell you opt out, but there are no guarantees that your data is not going to end up being out there and your data being weathered and used. So I look at it as the biggest hijack of intellectual property a little bit. But AI itself as a technology is phenomenal. It's no different than, no different than if I would say Bitcoin, the hash of the Bitcoin. It was very valuable that banks deployed it internally and all that kind of stuff. So those are the things that concern me. So if I was going to take my intellectual property, I don't just put it out there. That's me. Again, I'm looking at it. Stefan might have a different opinion on this. In fact, we talked yesterday, but that's what I see. And if you don't believe me, go ask Grok or ChatGPT. Tell them if I have private, they're going to tell you no. We don't guarantee anything. So you can go ask it. So you don't have to believe me. So those are the things that concern me. So we're able to take a private AI, put it at a company, and do exactly the same while keeping people's intellectual property safe. Now, regarding cloud computing itself, I go back to the economics of cloud computing. Your business, you're running a business. At the end of the year, you're going to look at your EBITDA, you want to see a profit, earning before tax and depreciation. The value of your business is measured on this. And why would I want to go in there and pay more money than I have to and get less performance and less power and less IT without support? So that's my issue with that. The other thing that I do see from a TCO standpoint, and I say that to every CEO and every technologist out there, technology has become, and I'll shut up after this because I know Stefan's got stuff to say. So technology today has become, and I remember when we first started, more complex than ever. Okay, in the past, you have an IT department that managed everything. I feel sorry for the IT department because they have a huge workload, and sometimes the owners of the business don't realize how much stress the IT team has on them. It is a huge workload, so they have to leverage MSPs and MSSPs to help them, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. So technology, I look at, it's very fragmented. And that fragmentation creates a lower total cost of ownership. And by actually bringing it together in a public cloud, a good partner like us, and I really believe in this, otherwise I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, I think it's very, very helpful for a lot of businesses.
Thanks, Brian. Stefan, let me reframe the question again for you here, because I think Brian answered it really well from an infrastructure provider standpoint. As you know, Brian's a real believer in dedicated private infrastructure. The 4 tenets of Advanced 2000 are around best total cost of ownership, highest performance, most secure, and private. So the privacy and security are really built into the ethos of Advanced 2000. But from your standpoint, you're advising a lot of companies. And, for some companies, like using Speckle, for example, they really don't care if it's on AWS. They're perfectly fine with it. Other companies are doing really sensitive projects where they're probably putting equipment on premises, right? Advanced 2000s, somewhere in the middle, where it's a private cloud company, not a hyperscaler and not on-prem equipment. How do you help your customers think about the right platform on which to base their AI? It's a very complex question, but I think it's really important because to have, AI one-offs, to have really fun tools that you use, that's one thing. But then if you're building a multi-billion-dollar data center in Ohio, for example, which, one of our customers is working on, they need to be rock solid sure that their infrastructure is going to be there for them. And if they want to use AI, they've got to make sure that it's going to be compliant, it's going to be private, it's going to be secure, high performance, and whatever they do has to give them best total cost of ownership. How do you help customers with that very complex decision space? And I didn't mean to throw you a hard question, but that is the question.
No, it's a hard question for sure, because it's like, again, I'm not an expert at cloud. I can say what I experience. I can say what I advise on. I'm an expert at implementing AI at AI, but it's not at cloud and all the nuances and small differences between the public, which is not actually essentially public, but this is what we discussed as well, because it's not that everybody has access to it, but it's like the big tech cloud and the private clouds, such as you guys offer. I think that most companies are not even there. I think that most companies are still struggling to figure out what to use and how to use it and where in their own workflow to use it. But I've seen clients, such as some militaries or some government agencies, or that are very, let's say, high up, and they're very obsessed with privacy and security. And of course, for them, it's a completely different ballgame. I think that they all like what we do with them is that we do a deep analysis on the three big clouds like Google Cloud and Microsoft Azure and AWS. And like, yeah, all of those clouds can be encrypted, so not even those big companies can access your data, even though it's there physically. But more often than not, it's not a question of security and privacy, to be honest with you. I think it's a question of like support and maintenance and just belief that this company has your back. I think it's more about that. I think it's more about like an emotional decision than it is a technical decision, in my opinion. Because a technical decision is like, everybody's kind of offering similar things. But if you know, okay, these guys, it's there, it's like in Buffalo or it's in New York or whatever it is, it's there, it's located there physically. I can access it, I can trust it. They're going to remove it. I think it's more of a that kind of decision. And of course, it also means a lot with updates, because you need to update your hardware every so often. And that's why they're building so many data centers. And in like 6 years, it's going to be like a whole new game of data centers because like they're now expanding that a typical life cycle of a data center is going from 5 years to 6 years, at least in Microsoft's case. And it's like just, I mean, it's a paper change, but like, yeah, it's like who you in the end trust emotionally, I would say is the right answer to that question. And who can handle the data load that you have. So it all depends on your size and your focus again. But again, most of my clients are smaller firms, smaller, up to 500 people firms that are, yeah, like, they're not there yet. They're focused more on like, what can I implement? Where can I implement it? How can it help me? And then later on, they take consideration on like, where is my data hosted? So.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I want to add to this. IT needs to be looked at holistically. Okay, AI is a subset of the IT and the intellectual property, and IT is becoming where it used to be a back end function of business. Without proper IT, the business can't function. There's no business without IT. Sadly, it isn't. Imagine your business without IT. There's no business. You can't compete, operate on anything. So IT is a very critical function of the business and should be looked at holistically. That includes nowadays one of the fastest moving segments. I know it's outside AI is security. That's why there's a lot of rise in MSSP, managed security service provider. It's the fastest growing service sector in the industry right now. And there's a reason for that because of the increased ransomware. And I'm not trying to scare people, but those are definitely out there. So IT needs to be looked at holistically. AI is a subset of that. That's a component for productivity. Think of it, it's another component that sits on the layer of the IT platform. So where I would look at things, I like to look at things holistically. I don't like to have, this fragmentation, and all that stuff, and that needs to be well studied and assessed.
Oh, thanks, Brian. Hey, guys, I heard an interesting statistic the other day that I think a majority of the population in China looks optimistically towards a future with AI, and the majority of the population in the US looks at it skeptically. So there's going to be a whole area of concern around compliance with AI, right? For example, if I'm an AEC manager and I'm using AI and AI does something that leads to the failure of a building, I'm liable, right? I personally do not know what the laws are around the use of AI in building design, but the big C word comes to mind, compliance. If I'm an AEC manager, what do I need to think about the risks and the opportunities relative to compliance for AI? And I say opportunities because AI can double check designs. AI can double check. So there can be a great positive to AI in compliance, and there could be some downside with, needing human supervision over AI to ensure that, even though we have a rules-based AI, we're not violating any compliance issues. So help me sleep better at night as an AEC manager. Talk to me about the relationship between AI and compliance. Where does it help me? Where does it hurt me? How should I think about it?
I would just like to ask you, Joe, compliance of what? Compliance of like building codes, compliance of like rules, of like what kind of compliance?
Well, I'm thinking about and again, I'm speaking as not as an expert here, from the standpoint of anywhere we're using AI, the issue is, does it create new legal liabilities for me? How does it
Oh,
supersede or work on our old method of having humans checking everything? I imagine in the design process we do human checks and human sign-offs on calculating proper loads and proper design practices and compliance with ordinances. And as we use AI and more of these functions, to what point can the human really be out of the loop to really let that efficiency take off? And at what point is there a balance between having humans in the loop, taking them out of the loop, and when does that actually create a compliance issue or a compliance opportunity?
that's a great question. I think that okay, so I think that we should focus on deliverables. What are we delivering? What are we selling essentially? That's it. So if we're selling time, maybe we should change the business model as we discussed earlier. If we're selling drawings, if we're selling designs, then let's focus on the deliverables of what is it that the client is seeing. Because if something goes wrong, who is going to be responsible for it? You can't just say, hey, AI has created this. It's the same with my business. Like as I've said, like we do these AI implementation plans where we help a company like analyze everything within them, find the best use cases of AI, find the best apps, and then after this whole process is said and done, we deliver a report. And of course, I use AI to create that report, like parts of it. But anytime I deliver it, I need to make sure that if something is written incorrectly, if something is like misinterpreted, it's going to be me who's going to be responsible for that. So I think that we should focus on deliverables, and that's what's going to make it compliant. It's the same thing. It's not only AI. It's like this is I think a good story. I have a buddy in the space, and he had this big store a few years ago, like an online store, where the whole idea was that like people could sell their BIM models. So you would develop your BIM model of whatever, like it's typically smaller family homes within different countries, right? And then let's say you want a Mexican home and you're living in Canada or whatever, like, I'm just giving an example. You could buy that BIM model that's already done, every drawing is produced, everything. And the only thing they were very careful about producing are the foundations, because the foundations change from a warm climate to a cold climate, right? So you could get the whole BIM model, and it saves you time in like design and analysis, and maybe it's just the right home as you want it. But they always said that in order to get like a building permit, you need to go to an architect, you need to go to an engineer for them to check it, maybe change it a bit, but it just speeds up that process. And I think that's a great analogy for how AI can be seen today. It's like, even though it can speed it up, it's like, it's still your responsibility, and you need to respect the building codes and whatever you have, like, locally. So.
Thank you, Stefan. Brian, any thoughts on compliance?
Yeah, I mean, I look at, compliance, honestly, listen, AI is not going to replace humans. There's still a PE person stamping a drawing and all that. Somebody has to be accountable. AI hallucinates. That's why I go back. I mentioned to you guys the data. If you go ahead and feed the AI silly data, you're going to have silly answers. So that's why it's good to make sure your data is actually well. So if you get into this AI size, and you want to really leverage stuff internally, you got to clean up your data. At least this is from my own experience. Start cleaning up your data, looking at things in small steps at a time. Otherwise, you will have bad answers. You will have incorrect answers. Again, data is a fuel for AI. Having incorrect data or data that's not correct is going to create all types of problems. AI is never going to replace completely all humans. Maybe down the road. I don't know. I'm going to say never, but at least for now, I don't see that. There's a lot of compliance. A lot of our customers regarding compliance, they're working on projects that are, that are government projects, very private projects that require certain compliances like CMMC and all that kind of stuff, and having these things float all over the place violate these compliances that are mandated to them by their clients. So that's how I look at things.
Okay. Well, let's stay on this theme of fear. Okay, fear and opportunity. I'm a new graduate. I wish I were, but let's say I'm a new graduate. I just went to architecture school. And I'm wondering, where should I use AI to be more effective, and where should I kind of avoid trying to work because AI is going to take my job? Or let's say I'm an experienced architectural professional. Where is AI something that I can use to increase the efficiency of my workflows and reduce my headcount? And what should I do in that regard? So let's talk about AI from the job security standpoint of the architect. Where is AI going to replace talent? And if that's an area that I'm an expert in, I better find another area. And where are there areas where AI is going to cause the need for additional talent, right? So what are your thoughts on that from the standpoint of advising either someone who's new in the architecture field or someone who's been around for a while? What's going to go away? What's going to be the typewriter repairman of the future in AI, and what's going to be the opportunity? So what would you say to the architect in that area?
Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I mean, younger doesn't mean you know more. Maybe I'm saying that because I'm old, but younger doesn't mean you know more. Experience has a lot to do with it. I'd say if you're coming into the industry, you should learn the ins and outs of the entire business as a young guy, architect starting. And leverage the new technology you learn at school to share it with others. That would be my recommendation. It creates better teamwork. So just because you know something, let's say that more maybe from a tool standpoint, more than somebody who's been doing this for many, many years, doesn't make you a better architect or a better engineer and all that stuff. I think you need to take the time to learn and work with your colleagues and share what you know in a way to help them out. One thing I do see with AI that's happening is from a cultural standpoint, there's a lot of fear around it that people thinking, or maybe people thinking, I'm going to be, replace all humans with this AI thing. I don't think you're not going to have a successful business doing that as a CEO. And if you are a person working, employee at a firm, I would embrace the technology. It's funny, the typewriter repairman, because, typewriters, before computers, there were typewriters. And if the people that were repairing typewriters then embrace the PC, they'd have no job. So we should be always looking forward for these type of things and learning all the time in our careers.
Thanks, Brian. What are your thoughts, Stefan? What would you advise?
I would address the question from the standpoint of fear, what you said in the beginning, fear and uncertainty. I think that people fear something they don't know or don't understand fully. I think that's that's why horror movies are horror movies, because you don't know what's there. So that's why you're fearing it, right? But then when you understand what is there, yeah, it's just a clown. Yeah, whatever, it's like you're fine. So what I'm trying to say is that I think that everybody who's fearing AI should spend an hour, 2 hours learning about it, wherever, through it online stuff, or I need to plug in my courses too here, because this is what we cover in the beginning, to teach people, because when you understand, you're like, I get it now. It's not as scary as I thought it was, because it can do these things amazing, but it's gonna really suck at these things, and that's what I can focus on. So I think that's the fear question, I would say, and the question of what people should focus on. I think that people know in their work. I've worked in companies as an employee before as well, and now as an entrepreneur. I think people know when they could be replaced, and this is something that. So anything that you could be replaced probably will be replaced at some point. And what you can do is you can upskill, you can try to find something new, and you can also double down on what works for you. What I mean is you can create art for decades now, with Photoshop or within seconds. But people still pay millions of dollars for paintings because somebody painted it with their hand and they spend time on it and so on. And I think it's the same thing for everything. You can buy, I don't know, if whatever, a bottle of wine that's only produced in 10, whatever bottles, and it's somebody the family that produced it, or you can buy just generic whatever cheap wine in a box, and it's you understand the difference. This was probably factory made somewhere, whatever, mixed with all different kinds, but this is original and something, handmade, so to speak. So yeah, I think that's what people should focus on something that's irreplaceable. And I think people know, but if they don't, again, yeah, probably I can be more specific in my answers next time.
I want to mention, just so you guys know, machine learning has been around for quite a long time. It's nothing new. In fact, the rise of AI, it's basically the follow up on machine learning is because we were able to, from a technology standpoint, being able to do a lot of parallel processing and that kind of stuff. So it gave rise to AI, and I go back to kind of a little bit what Stefan said. I wouldn't be fearing this. I would be embracing it and trying to see what I could do to make my firm more productive and work with my leadership. Well, leadership needs to basically make sure that they open. I'm not saying they have their eyes closed. Be open-minded and look at these type of things because it is definitely something that's coming. And set the right guardrails and parameters and clean the data. Those are, I guess, in summary from my side.
All right. So, hey, let's move beyond fear. Let's move into hope now. I'd like to hear from each of you a story of a real world win that you've seen with AI. What can you share to give us all hope that it's not doom and Armageddon with AI, that there's going to be a bright future?
There's no, obviously AI is not perhaps it's not a doom and Armageddon. There's no doubt about it. It's actually a great tool that's very, very useful. We just have to properly set it up, all this stuff, so you actually, using it the right way. So regarding wins, like I said earlier in our conversation, I have a client, a great client that does, they do highways, very large construction, do highways for the government, and they literally 5x'd their wins, and they're in a $250 million a year revenue, leveraging AI to better estimate and bid their bids, and their competitors didn't, and some of their competitors were much larger than they are, and their competitors are subs to them right now on some of these projects. So yeah, that was pretty eye-opening. We've also had things from our side, from a business that I own, which is a different business than an AEC industry. It's a back-end software for and trade industry, and our competitors leverage AI better than us. We kind of a little bit like the shoemaker and then pay attention, lost track a little bit of the ball, and we end up losing. We came back to actually win back some of these customers because we went ahead, the customers that we lost, because we went ahead and had better, our data was much more organized and than they did, and we were able to leverage AI a little bit better than just the technology up front and win back. So that's from a real win standpoint based on what I've seen.
Thanks, Brian. Stefan, keep cheering us up.
Yes, thank you. As Brian said, probably like your customers or like your clients are the best success stories. So I don't know if people know that, but I've been very blessed in my life. I think that more blessed than I deserve for sure. In terms of I opened a business after being laid off, and within now a year and a half, I got more than 800 clients from 74 countries. And it's crazy. And I just want to share one because I'm looking at the testimonials we have from our students. And just like the most recent one we got is a guy from Spain, from south of Spain. And he said that, he said like this: I almost never write a review for a product or service, but I'm delighted how much our basic course, Discovering AI and AEC, has influenced me to automate some processes in my work. I work with swimming pools in south of Spain, which is a big part of the construction industry there, and BIM has become a standard. Since AI is still unknown, I improved my position already in the company in a few ways. As an example, I created databases of various standards by counties within southern Spain using Notebook LM. I created various calculators using Claude, etc. And I discovered all these ideas and applications by listening to the course. So I think that's a good story of like how.
All right.
somebody lean
It's a
into
great
that change.
story.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
That
Stefan.
qualifies. Thank you, guys. Great.
You've
Hey,
been
so guys, I
helping
want to respect
people.
everybody's time. We've got a couple more minutes here. I've got one last question. I want each of you to take 60 seconds in this one last question. Advise our audience. What should they do in the next 12 months to make sure that they're starting their AI journey? What is a prudent expenditure of time and treasure to make sure that they're not going to miss the AI wave, that they're not over-investing, they're not under-investing? The stage is yours, each 60 seconds. Inform our audience.
I think that Brian, you want to go first? Yeah.
No, go ahead. I was going to say Stefan. Go ahead.
Yes. So, I mean, I have the 10-step process, as I've said, with many companies. AI value proposition, education and policy, tech stack assessment, where we discuss like the workflow, we find pain points. And then probably what people should start with is an AI task force. I think that's the most effective way to implement AI. So you need to give a certain budget to this. You need to give a certain like task force. So some people that are responsible for this, and then you go with interviews from person to person, asking, "Hey, what is your headache? What are you spending most time on? What would you like to be automated, or use AI on? And how are you using it today?" Because as I've said, most of the staff is using it, and then you do all of these like questionnaires and so on, and collect that feedback, and then decide on a plan and process on how to continue with this. Now, again, if people need help, this is what we do as a company. But again, this is what I would definitely focus on, an AI task force with knowledgeable people inside who know what they're doing. Because if you just discuss about stuff, you're never going to get anything done. So it needs to be
To clarify,
actionable.
so you're recommending that firms set up an internal AI task force to sort of circle the wagons around the process
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you. Brian, over to you. What do you recommend?
First, I would look at your technology. I look at technology holistically, completely holistically. I would, and if I was to get into the weeds, I would look at the security risk that you currently probably have in your business, because with risks there could be no business. So I would look at the technology, your entire technology holistically from the grounds up. I would, as I jump into AI, obviously I would have a task force similar to what Stefan is saying. I would, part of it would be getting your data under control. You're going to find out, just from my own experience, because we've deployed AI in many processes in our own companies, that you're going to find that you got a lot of internal cleanup that you got to do. Otherwise, junk in, junk out. AI is not a human being that's going to create new stuff for you. It's going to basically, it could be a bad behavioral item if you feed it bad stuff. I would modernize your infrastructure to be able to handle the AI if you're going to be doing it internally, or modernize it to be able to handle the technology. If the technology itself is not modern, you're never going to be able to deploy anything useful. So you have to have modern technology right at the baseline. It's like if you want to cross the Atlantic, you have to have a seaworthy boat that's going to be able to cross the Atlantic. Otherwise, you're going to sink. Even so, you might have high hope.
Perfect.
As an executive, I would also be looking at the guardrails that you want to put around this, and start measuring ROIs.
Excellent. Well, guys, we're at time. Katie's giving me that look, so I'm going to turn this back over to her. But I want to thank you both
Katie.
for joining me today. I think it was a really great conversation, and I hope it was useful to all of our attendees. So, Katie, over to you.
I do want to point out, there was a James Hill that asked me a question, said, Brian, you said that, was it Copilot's stupid? I apologize, James. I didn't say Copilot's stupid. I don't mean it's stupid. So I don't necessarily say it's stupid. I have other views. I think I texted you what I meant. So sorry if I hurt your feelings.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody who was able to join us today. Please go ahead and connect with us on our socials and visit our website to keep up to date on more information. Stay tuned for additional information coming soon for our February webinar. And I just want to thank Brian, Stefan, and Joe again for their time today. Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome. I'm going to answer a question here.
Thanks, Katie.
Thank you, guys. Have a nice day, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.